that's when you almost get in an information overload because you keep learning and learning and learning. If you're not applying your new knowledge, then you will forget it.
Today's guest on the Dev Leader podcast is Thimo Koolen, and we got chatting about the responsibility that software engineers have as we're creating software that's used across different industries. We're also chatting through advice for new software engineers in terms of getting started, getting building things, and getting your feet wet, and just how important that is with respect to learning. And finally, no podcast would be complete without talking about AI. So we were diving into what it looks like in terms of AI progression, as well as why it's so important to understand the fundamentals so that you can use AI effectively. For me, there were a lot of really awesome takeaways from this conversation, so I think that you're really going to enjoy it. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Thimo, do you want to kick us off with some of your career journey? You can start as early as you'd like, as late as you'd like, but give us a little bit of background for how you got to where you are.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thanks again, Nick, for inviting me on podcast.
Of course.
And my introductions are either too short or too long, and there's no in between. So I'm hoping for you that it's going to be like more on the shorter side, but we'll see.
Perfect.
So I am a software engineering consultant working mostly with .NET, but my interest in computers, software engineering, programming, and all those kind of things started in a very, very young age.
Okay.
I can't actually remember like when it started, but I've always been like loving experimenting with computers and like websites and programming. And around the age of 12 was when a certain game got really popular, and I think it's still popular to this day. It's called Minecraft.
Okay.
And there's like you can host a multiplayer server, and that server had like a SDK of sorts where you can make plugins. And I loved experimenting with it. I was clueless, so for some reason it worked. And the code definitely was not good, but it was a lot of fun to like play around with and mess around. And then like in the last 2 years of high school, around 16, 17 years old, I think, was when we had an option to join a Java class.
Okay.
Which was really small, like only, I think we were with 10 people or something. And this was where I actually learned programming, like object-oriented with Java, of course. And I loved it so much. And all those silly experiments started making sense, like, it's because of this and it works like that. And it was just a lot of fun. And I learned a lot, I knew a lot. And at one point, I wasn't allowed to answer any questions from the teacher anymore because otherwise the others couldn't answer them because I was answering way too many of them. But this really sparked my interest in programming, and I joined a computer science course for uni, and I have my degree in computer science. It's a 4-year course focusing on like the whole software development lifecycle. So mainly programming, but also like gathering requirements, testing, and all those kind of involved.
That's interesting, actually. And this is just a quick reminder that if you're enjoying this conversation, to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more future episodes. I found that a lot of people that have gone through like college or university, a lot of the time, like from my own experience and when I'm talking to other people, I end up hearing a similar story, which is like we focused on a lot of sort of like history of how we, got to like first principles of different programming concepts, a lot of like computer science fundamentals. For folks that went through like an engineering part, there's like the chemistry, the physics, but then I almost rarely ever hear anyone talk about like there was testing and there was software development life cycle. It's like those things, like how we actually apply all of those things, like the programming concepts just get dropped and you get tossed into the real world.
Yeah, of course, we got like the concepts behind certain things as well. And it's of course different per school. For us, it was also, we had a brand new curriculum because like we all know tech changes a lot, and what was new and shiny 5 years ago is like garbage right now. So we were also like a test person, test class, however you want to name it, which had its ups and downs. That was very interesting. Then in those 4 years, I had two internships, both 6 months, so about a year of internships in total.
That's
First one with
awesome.
first one was with Java and Kotlin in mobile development, which was fun. And the second one was my graduation internship, which was with .NET and Microsoft Orleans. And I was working on adding a new feature to a chatbot project they have to basically implement long-term memory, which I now jokingly say is like a first prior alpha version of the ChatGPT memory and such.
Yep.
But of course, I didn't graduate at OpenAI or something, but it's like a very basic implementation of what we have right now with ChatGPT. Uh, and I really grown to love .NET. So I started working with .NET after graduating, which is my current role as a software engineering consultant. I work for a Dutch company that does both consultancy and managed services. And consultancy is in a few areas such as development that I'm in, data, AI, modern workplace, infrastructure, all on the Microsoft stack. And I've done a few internal and a few external clients over the 4.5 years that I've been there right now. But the external clients are, of course, the most interesting and the best for your experience. So the first one was for a major truck manufacturer in the Netherlands that's very active in Europe. And the team I was in worked on an application that allowed dealers across Europe to make quotes for maintenance packages. And it's a pretty complex application, actually. It sounds very simple, but you can basically compare it to like being in a car dealership and then having a whole car configurator tool with a lot of options and restrictions, and option A and option B cannot go together. It's basically that, but then for truck maintenance packages.
That sounds pretty cool.
It was really cool. It was really interesting and a lot more complex than it initially sounded. And then the second external client is where I'm at currently for about a year now. And it's a healthcare institute for radiology where they treat patients that are diagnosed with cancer. And we are working on a new version of a very outdated electronic patient record. So basically, so they can treat the patients there. And I really love the project. It's interesting and it's a great impact because you really help the institute to help people get better and get treated.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference when you're able to find work where, like, don't get me wrong, I think as software developers, like, we all love solving complex problems, building systems. Like, that's part of
Mhm.
why we do what we do. But when you can connect that to something for the end user where you're like, hey, like, I actually feel like the impact I'm having is connected to that, I think that makes a world of difference.
Absolutely. When you can do something that you either love doing, like in a hobby or something that has a great impact, that is so satisfying to work on.
Yeah. It's no, that's really awesome experience. I think that it's always interesting to hear. I find like a lot of people, and I don't know if there's got to be some correlation here. A lot of people seem to get started in programming because of games for some reason. I'm not
Yeah.
everyone, of course, but it seems like there's a lot of people. So for you, Minecraft, I can't remember for me what it was. I think before I could program, it was like it wasn't really programming. It was like, hey, if I find these files and there's configurations there, I can like change some of the settings and like make the game
Mhm.
easier. Like I'm just looking for ways to cheat, basically. And then I think once I figured out how to program and I had my first like classes in high school, I was like, I need to make games. Like whatever I'm doing, like I need to go figure out how to make something. No game was ever good, but that was just like the big motivator for me. So a lot of people
Yeah,
seem to light up that way.
and your observation is right because I've heard it before that a lot of people want to be like a game programmer, which well can sound really attractive, but I've also heard the industry can be really tough to be in there.
Yes.
One of my colleagues actually wanted to be a game developer at first, and joined us to get like more experience with developing .NET. And he's still a .NET developer. He's loving it, and he's learned a ton. And well, I don't know if he still wants to be like a game developer. He might be, but
Yeah.
right now he's enjoying what he's doing, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, it's I've heard the same thing about like sort of the game industry. I actually do not know a single person who has gone to work in the game industry. So I'm whatever I'm about to say is sort of like multiple levels removed, but what I have heard or what I've read is that there's a lot of sort of like like there's a grind to get the release dates met, more scope always being added, people working crazy hours and stuff like that. That's all that I've heard. And so it's like, I think a lot of us on the surface are like, oh, making games would be so fun. And then everything else I see is like the reality is that it's terrible.
Mm.
But if anyone's watching or listening to this and you have worked in the game industry and it's been different than that, it'd be super cool to hear. Because I've only ever heard it's terrible. And that's
Yeah,
kind of demotivating, but yeah.
I've heard it's terrible. Like the conditions, the hours, like you said. Of course, the pay is relatively low for tech. There's a lot of competition to get in there and to stay in the industry. So
Yeah.
it's very competitive to get in. And I think if you are dreaming of being a game programmer, then it's best to start as like a quote quote normal programmer and learn the basics, learn the foundations, and get the experience under your belt because that really helps you get into the industry if you want to.
Yeah, I've joked with even my current team members, that if I ever won the lottery, like there would be signs, like I wouldn't tell anyone, but there would be signs, and those signs would be that you would find me on a beach writing video games, and like that's what I would just be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then
I mean,
I thought it was interesting too that and I don't know why this is always the case. I'm assuming because of regulations and things like that, but patient tracking, any type of system like that always seems like it's the most out of date system that's ever existed. Like I don't know. Is it because of
yeah,
regulations and data privacy and stuff like that?
I think that's exactly that. So there's a lot of regulations, like who can access data,
Hmm.
what rules, what needs to be logged. It's a ton, and that makes it very difficult. And of course, things can be very specialized. And if you want to use a system, then you need a system that can work with all those specialties, especially in like a larger hospital. And there's like a few products on the market that are very broad, can be used in like hospital, but it's very hard to join the market as like a new product because you need a lot of investment to get started. You need, if you want to be in a hospital, you need to basically support all departments. You need to be able to handle all the data, all the privacy, all the requirements, all the regulations. You need to be able to communicate with like GPs, like with uh, all other departments, also externally. So
Hmm.
there's a lot to it, and it's like a multi-billion investment to even like get onto market. So it's really hard. That's why there's like only a few major players there right now.
Right.
The product we are working on is like internally for the healthcare institute because it's a really specialized environment with specific treatments, specific procedures. Uh, so they really wanted something that works for them.
Hmm.
Uh, and they already had an application, but it was very outdated. Yeah, it also written in .NET, but then like a very old version, so not comparable. And it was in, I believe it was WinForms or WPF. Either of the
Of
two, I
course.
always,
Yeah, my
I,
my
al-
old stomping
I,
ground. Yeah.
I always like mix the two up. But one of them, and now we're working with .NET 8, LTS, with Blazor,
Nice.
So the fun stuff.
That's cool. But yeah, it's an interesting point, right? So with that kind of software, you have, um, like you can't just, I shouldn't say can't, but like it seems like it would be very unlikely that you to have like we're going to whip up an MVP and pitch it to a hospital. It's like the MVP would have to have so many things in it that
Mhm.
like it can't just be surface level. You're talking about all these different integrations, so you'd have to find something very specialized.
Yeah,
um you layer on all sorts of different like data privacy things, like so I'm imagining like if you wanted to be able to support patients and you have a hospital, like depending what country you're operating in, I have no idea, but across Europe I'm sure there's a lot of different sorts of challenges across the countries and stuff. But
absolutely. And it's also not just like regulations and privacy and such. It's also healthcare is very complex, and you don't want to be like the source of like someone dying, basically,
yeah,
because well, you need to know to register a lot. You need to sometimes have like processes in an application, and there's been cases of an application that's used across hospitals here, where some important data was not visible on a screen,
I see.
but like on a subscreen, and that basically meant that sometimes data got missed, and that has resulted to like people dying, unfortunately, which really sucks. And that's horrible. But that's like one of the dangers of such an application, because you have such high responsibility, and you
Yeah,
don't want to be the cause of such a result.
yeah, it's a pretty incredible, right? That like with software, there's so many different domains that we could be working in, right? The one
Yeah.
of the last people I was talking to on this podcast was describing like working in agriculture, right? So he was saying that we're sending up all this data from tractors and stuff like that, and like that's fascinating, but um, not to minimize that, but if there was a blip in the error of like for the reporting of all those sensors, that would be a blip and probably not result in death or injury or illness, but in something like a hospital environment, if you had a blip in some execution flow and that's going to cause a screen to not show at a particular time, or to show but be missing data or wrong data, like the blip could be catastrophic for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting, not just how many domains we can be in, but also how critical our applications can be. And of course, how important testing is, and making sure everything works and everything remains working in the future when you create something new or do like a bug fix. We have so much responsibility as a software engineer, which can be very fun, especially if you like enjoy solving puzzles and making things and making people's lives better and such. But it's a lot of responsibility, and some people can feel like very daunting by it.
yeah, that's totally true. And I think a lot of the time we like it's very easy to forget that like when we're into the code, we're thinking about
Yeah,
like the systems we're building, like it's not just code, it's not just how things are structured, it's not just your favorite language. There's a lot of these pieces that when they come together, like ultimately we're building stuff usually to, help other people's lives, and like we do have a responsibility there. So yeah, it's a big weight to carry, and maybe a good segue into for people that want to get into the industry.
mhm.
I know that this is something that you're passionate about talking about, and I guess I'm curious, like for your sort of interactions with individuals, like is there, especially now with AI and like the current job market and all of these things going on, like
Mhm.
are there themes from people that you're talking to or seeing, and like kind of what does that look like for you to navigate that?
Well, I think the hardest part is to get into the industry, because if you're into it and you get the experience, that's very helpful, and
Right.
it's easier to stay in. inside of the industry. One thing that I can really advise, especially if you do like a computer science degree or something in programming, I heard that, especially like on the American side, internships are sometimes optional, uh, which for me is really strange because like we have two mandatory 6-month internships.
I feel like internships are rare over here, which uh, is like that makes me uncomfortable. When I went to school, so I'm from Canada. I went to school at the University of Waterloo. It was a what's called like a co-op program, and you are forced. I had 6 internships.
Oh,
Like you're forced
6 is a
into it,
lot.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and like when I reflect on that, I think at the time, like picking it, I was like, hey, this is cool. But when I reflect on it now, I'm like, if I didn't have that, I have no idea where I would be. I think they're critical.
And that's exactly what I was like kind of point out because if internships are optional, I would highly suggest to do them. Like get the experience because I did 2 internships, like I said, and in those 2 6-month internships, so in that 1 year, I learned so much more, especially like practical knowledge and skills than in the other 3 years of my degree. Like you learn real code and real projects instead of really fabricated ones. Like I remember one project, we had to work on a team for like one of the courses. We had to work on a mobile app for like a cinema, but it's a fake cinema with like fake data, and it was a fun project, but nothing really beats a real project like people will use with stakeholders, with a team, and it's so valuable to get that experience. And you also learn team dynamics because everyone is different. And some people like very introverted, some are extroverted, some can communicate very well, some are poor communicators. And there's a lot to learn with a team dynamic. But one thing that's important is it's a team. You work together.
Right.
You have to deliver a project together. It's not solo work. And of course, you learn practical communication, prioritization. You really learn the skills that are needed
Mm-hmm.
to survive in the industry that you don't learn, or at least not to its full extent, uh, doing your uni course.
Right. That's why I was even amazed when you were, and I shouldn't be amazed, but when you were saying, yeah, we got to talk about like the software development life cycle, we got to talk about testing in
Mm-hmm.
school. I was like, I don't know why they didn't do that for us. That doesn't make sense. But to your point, at least for me, when I was going through internships, it was like, oh, this is what this is what real life is like. But yeah, like I just find that relying I hate to say this, but like relying on only what's in school feels like that's a big miss. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, like it's been quite a while for me since I've been in school. I really hope that things are more and more modern, but like when I think back to when I was in school, this would have been over 10 years ago, it's not like we were still talking about stuff that was so far behind that I'm sure that even fast forwarding 10 years, I'm sure it's more modern than when I was
Mm-hmm.
there, but I am still betting it's behind like what's actually happening in the workplace. So,
Yeah, of course. And like when you have assignments at school, you will get like those perfect clear requirements,
right,
which rarely is the case in real life when you work in a team. You always have to like find out the why
right.
behind the requirements. And I think that's like a good one as well, because if you ask why instead of just how, you
Hmm.
start to understand the business. And this is more geared towards juniors than those like entering the industry.
Hmm.
But if you uh, really wanna like level up, so to say, it's good to understand the business, understand the why behind the requirements, understand why it's a problem, and like what a good solution will be. Because coding is fun, but code is also a liability
Right.
because it can break, things change, it's work, it takes time. And if you really understand the why behind an issue, then you can work together with the team, the product manager, and whatever roles you have, because also that's different per per company and per
Yeah.
team. And you understand, you can work together on like getting a proper solution for the end user, for the stakeholders, whoever's using the product, and that's what really makes you stand out. If you can understand how to deliver the value behind beyond just code.
Right. And I find like I really appreciate the why part because I think that even, for more junior developers, if you're like, at least in my experience, we're bringing someone onto a team. This happens, by the way, even for more senior developers,
Oh,
just
absolutely.
introducing people to a team. But it's like, hey, we're going to give you some stuff that's a little bit more like we understand the scope of it. Like it's not ambiguous, it's not that complex, but like here you go. Like this will help you explore the code base. With
Mhm.
more junior individuals, though, we generally spend a little bit longer on that. And that's not because we think a junior is stupid or they're not capable, but it's to build momentum, right? Here's some bite sized things. We understand them relatively well. At least other people on the team might be able to kind of dive into that and help. And you build this momentum up so that you get in the habit of like, this is what the software development lifecycle is. This is our domain. This is our tooling. And then you introduce more complexity and ambiguity over time. But
It's interesting because now you're like touching onto the onboarding process
mm,
when someone starts the company, and like things I heard and things I read is that onboarding processes are still like a good onboarding process is still rare. Like
yeah,
a lot of times you join a company, if you're lucky, your laptop is ready.
right.
And if you're even more lucky, then your account is ready as well, and you have all the like the permissions you need to get set up and running. You have all the licenses. It's so rare that that process worked well on like your first day. And
Yeah.
then like you need to get set up, you need to get your environment set up, all the logins, all the systems. That's a lot of work. Uh, if a company invests in good onboarding process, that can really help new people get started, but especially juniors, because well, for most of them it will be the first, maybe the second onboarding process. And if the process is good, that really helps them like get started fast to get learning and to delivering value. And it's not just the logins and the devices and like the development environment. It's also okay learning the application, learning the team, getting those stakeholders, who's important, processes. There's a lot of information, and either you're not doing well and it takes a few weeks to get set up, or it works very well and it's like an information overload,
Yeah.
because that can definitely happen. It's a good balance. Um, I think a lot of companies can really uh, have a better onboarding experience, and they can really benefit from that.
Yeah, it's I definitely agree that like that the onboarding part is almost feels like it's like never good. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there are places out there that do have it nailed. I feel like it's probably pretty rare, but it's a good reminder for people that are, are junior, they're kind of landing their first job, they're excited to start, and then they start and they're like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? Like, hang in there. You will get through it. It's a pretty common thing. Unfortunately, the onboarding's rough. You'll learn this, but documentation is important. But documentation is also a tax, right? Documentation is like it's obsolete the minute it's written. Like
Yeah.
things move very fast, and really like many of us will say like, oh, we need good documentation, we value good documentation, and then you say great, well go update the documentation, and it's like, no, I got better things to do. So you have to you have to sort of create this culture where keeping documentation up to date's helpful, or sorry, that it's that people are doing it so that it is helpful.
Yeah.
When you're onboarding, the onboarding documentation is probably out of date, but there's probably some valuable things in there. So update it as you're going. You'll help the next person. We kind of have to get in this habit.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea to have the documentation and update it as you learn the application. But one thing to also like get to know mostly the technical structure of the application is just start the application in debug mode and just go through it with debugger. Step through it, step into it, and just learn the flow. The architecture is it like clean architecture, vertical slice, whatever it is, or most likely a mix of both, because architecture is rarely perfect.
Yeah, but they followed the tutorial, right? So it's got to be exactly as the YouTube video said.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tutorials, and they get stuck into it, and we all know
Yeah.
tutorial. It's that's a nice bridge, by the way.
Yes.
But tutorial so easy to get sucked into and to stay in there. And well, most people don't even know about tutorial. Like they are stuck in something and they don't know what it is. They don't realize they're into it. And that's why I try to, like in one of my posts, I really, well, what do you say? Like try to draw attention to, uh, this is not going well. Okay,
Like draw
so
attention to
yeah,
tutorial hell and like this
yeah,
realization that like what that even means, because like I think you said it already though, right? Like people get into it and they don't realize it's happening.
yeah, and then it's hard to get out of it because you're like, oh, this tutorial is interesting, and oh, there's another one that follows up to this, and I think this ties nicely into just building, just doing, just get your feet wet, try it out, uh, do that one or two tutorials to like understand the basics, and
Yeah.
then get started. Just try something, build something that might be useful for yourself or like a family or friend. Learn something practical, and then get stuck, and then look up why you're stuck and solve it, and then repeat the cycle.
That
That's
getting
the
stuck part
best
though, like
process.
people avoid getting stuck because like I think it's a human nature thing to be like it's friction, it's uncomfortable, like I don't
Mm,
want that. So let me like we have all of these tools, all of this information. Like you can like it's funny now because it used to be go to Google or Bing, like wherever, you go search the thing, you go look it up on Stack Overflow.
mm.
You have to go dig up the information to solve your problem. Now you can you if you type something into YouTube, there is guaranteed to be a list of tutorials. You type it into Chat GPT or whatever your favorite
Yeah,
LLM is, it will answer it all for you, regardless of how accurate it is. It's giving you an answer. It's We've never had information and answers to things so readily available, and that the reality is that this idea around getting stuck is so important for learning that we like we're almost like sabotaging ourselves because it's like we have all of these things that can avoid the friction,
mhm.
avoid the getting stuck part, that we don't get stuck enough.
Yeah, and that's when you almost get in an information overload because you keep learning and learning and learning, and then you just start forgetting things. You
Yeah.
if you're not applying your new knowledge, then you will forget it. If it's in 5 minutes, in an hour, a day, a week, whatever, you will forget it if you don't apply it. And that's one of the key learnings I think I figured out over the years. Don't get
Yeah.
stuck learning things one after the other. Just apply it, make something because, well, honestly, making something is fun. I enjoy it. So just get your feet wet and start programming,
Yeah,
and
this
you will
idea of
thank yourself for it.
absolutely, yeah. This this idea of getting stuck and applying things is, it's not like unique to programming, right? It's
Yeah.
this is what we do when we're learning things. I go back to this example. So I'm from Canada. Canada is bilingual, so most of Canada will speak English, and yes, there are parts that speak French significantly more. But as you know, a kid growing up in Ontario, we had, I can't remember what age we started, or I think grade 3 or grade 4 we start French. I think grade 4. So we learned French from grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I don't know how many years that is. It's enough years that I should know some French.
Hmm.
I know so little French. Like I can say bonjour, or like je m'appelle Nick, like my name is Nick. Like I had very little French, only the things that were said so frequently that they're burned into my brain. But I could not have a conversation in French. I can't read French. Like to say that I know French would be like a very silly statement. But why is that the case despite many years of doing it? It's because it was never applied regularly, and it has not been applied regularly since. So it doesn't matter how many years, it was very much just like, to me, that education process was kind of like tutorial hell. It's like, here's the things, just repeat them over and over, and some of them stick, right? But like the vast majority of it are like the concepts. The concepts do not stick for me for French. I can't conjugate my verbs. I don't know the masculine and feminine version of words. Like I have no idea. There's just a couple of phrases that are burned into my brain because it was
Yeah.
not applied.
And that's also like one of the things that I suggest. If you are learning something new for programming, don't learn languages, but learn the concepts, like
Right.
object-oriented. It shouldn't matter if you are learning Java or C Sharp. Well, just stay away from Java, but
That's right. Yeah.
that
They put
doesn't
the
matter.
curly braces on the wrong lines. It's not okay.
Yeah. And the methods start with a lowercase. It's
Yeah.
so
No,
weird.
that's not okay.
And they don't have link.
Yeah. What's with that? They should.
Yeah, link is amazing, but just learn concepts, just learn object-oriented programming, and then you can basically, with like little extra training, program in multiple languages. Learn structures, learn if-else, learn inheritance, learn composition, solid principles, learn those concepts that are important. Learn databases, learn a database before like working with an ORM, because it's a fundamental. And if you understand how it works, then it's easier to remember it and to like debug when you run into issues.
Yeah, and like the reality is that, going back to like this tutorial hell concept, is that all those things that you were talking about learning, like yes, you could go find a tutorial on like what is composition, what is inheritance, and like yes, you could go watch a handful of them and kind of walk away from that feeling like I get it, and you might, but like the reality is, start applying it, start reading through code that's using it, start, like you have to kind of be around it significantly more,
Mm.
like working with it before it really starts to click. Like if you don't, what happens is you go, oh, I remember composition, I remember inheritance, but I got to go look it up. And there's going to always be things like that in software development where you have to go look it up. That's totally fine. But
You never know
some of the
everything.
exactly, but some of these fundamental things that you were around, like to give you an example, I use a lot of SQL, and I still have to go look up certain things in SQL, but like I understand the general structure of the query. Like I understand that I can specify the columns I want to pull, or I have a where clause, like the general structure I got, but there's certain operators and things like that I don't remember.
Mhm.
But general, yes. And then you have the same type of thing with like everything in programming, where there's the concepts, the general aspects to programming that you will understand because you apply them so regularly. And then all these nuanced things where you're like, I remember something about this, but like I gotta go ask ChatGPT now.
Yeah. And just like we said, just apply it. Create side projects. Create something that's helpful for yourself, a friend, a family member, whatever it is. Follow creators. Like people with a YouTube channel, bloggers. I heard Nick is a great creator.
I've created a
That's
couple of
all.
things.
But that's also why I started writing, because I like sharing knowledge.
Right.
And writing is such an undervalued skill in tech. And it's something you can really learn. And I've seen that over the past 7-ish months that I've been posting daily on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
is that writing gets easier. It gets easier to write a post, to think about what to write, and like just the text that you write. It's easier to read. Your code gets easier to read as well, and it's really helpful. And
It's
I
a
like,
skill, right? Like you have to practice it and you will get better at it. And like we were just talking about programming, right? And you have to practice programming to learn the concepts. Like, yes,
mhm.
writing is going to be a very similar thing. It's the I'm sure if you went back to look at your first post on LinkedIn where you were thinking like this is going to be like a I'm trying to help people. Like this is going to be a good message to deliver. If you were to go read it, you might be like, probably wouldn't do it that way now.
And that's growth. And that's also like one of the things I suggest with programmers is, okay, you've been in the industry for 6 months now. Just go look back at your first code. Look back at the old commits.
Yep.
See how you did it back then and compare it to how you're doing now. Feel the cringe, because that's what you're gonna do, especially in the first
Yep.
few months. But even now, if I look back 6 months ago, that's a lot of code I've written and so much learning opportunities and so much feedback I've gotten on PRs and so much feedback I've given on PRs. And you learn so much and you apply those skills and that new knowledge. And even now, after like being in the industry for over 5 years, it's you learn so much new things, and well, things change anyways. So tech moves ahead. If you look back 6 months, it's a whole different person, and you should be proud of learning and growing and getting those new skills.
Yeah, that shouldn't ever feel like embarrassing, right? Like
No.
I'll give you a great example. I was Now that we have all of these AI tools, like I can run an agent or a group of agents on my machine and go build stuff. By the way, for new developers, it might feel like that's a cheat code, but you're probably cheating yourself if you're not asking the LLM like to explain things and you're diving into it. Just getting code produced is not learning, so be careful
Absolutely.
with that. But for myself, I've been programming for over 20 years. There's some things where I'm like, hey, like now that I have some projects that I haven't touched in years and years and years, and I don't have time for them. But I was thinking if I clone the repo down and I can go set Claude off and go run like some agents and stuff, I'm like, that would be really cool that I could go have this thing chip away at this project that like I don't really have time for anymore. And I can kind of check in with it and give it some tasks. And I was like, that would be cool. And I went to go look at the repository and I was like, I I never thought when I was working on this that I would say in the future I got to scrap the whole thing and rewrite it from scratch. Because that last time I was touching it was already like, the fifth rewrite and I was like this is going to be the final one. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like there's so much here that I don't even want to go ask an LLM to go start restructuring it. I kind of want to be like just do it from scratch so it doesn't suck. And that's only a few years back, and that's after at that time like over I don't know like 17 plus years of programming. Like it's
Mhm.
going to keep evolving.
But the reality is AI is here to stay, and we don't know where it's going. It's been moving a lot over the past 2, 3, 4 years,
Yeah.
and it's gonna move even faster. But it's here to stay, and you need to keep up, especially if you want to join the industry. It's very hard to keep up, but you have to try and at least like understand the basics, understand how it helps you as a software engineer
Mhm.
do your work, do your work better, and learn faster. Because everything is just moving so much faster right now, and just know, okay, how to ask questions to an LLM to understand concepts, how to use GitHub Copilot or any other Copilot to help in your code. How can it like write your tests? There's so much to it, or maybe update documentation, like we mentioned before.
Right.
It can be really
It's
helpful.
very
Tests
it's
and
very good at
documentation.
documenting things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's such a vital concept and a skill that you need.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn it, especially now as a junior or someone wanting to join the industry, you're already falling behind and you don't want that.
Yeah. I've personally been challenging myself more and more because you're right. Even I would say even over just the past 12 months alone, how I'm trying to use AI has like dramatically changed.
Yeah.
It started off like, I'm asking Chat GPT for not like, I don't even know, probably not even programming related things, just information in general. Cool. It's
Yeah.
convenient. Then it started to be, and this is for my personal projects, by the way, not for things at work. I don't actually write code at work. So when I talk about this stuff, it's almost exclusively just my side projects. But then it started to be, let me use ChatGPT, let me copy and paste like a method in. Like, hey, go do something with this method.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Stepping stone, kind of neat. Then it was, okay, ChatGPT, like I want you to go write this class. Like this is what this thing needs to do. And then it's whipping it up. And I'm going, this is pretty sweet. And then I see the Copilot changes, cursor, and I'm like, okay, now I can have that in my IDE. Cause I mean, I was using the autocomplete like with Copilot stuff for as long as it was out. And I'm like, this is pretty fancy. This is
Yeah.
helpful. But it's not, to me it wasn't quite doing like this next level, like the productivity boost that everyone's talking about. But then agents come around and I'm trying the agents in VS Code and Visual Studio and Cursor, and I'm going, man, like this is not it. Like I have to hold this thing's hand so much that by the time I prompt it perfectly, I might as well have just coded what I need to code.
Mm-hmm.
But this stuff is already evolving so fast over the past few months that if I use GitHub Copilot with pull requests, I can write the most simple like ticket and it does a really good job
Mm-hmm.
to like go do something pretty good. Is it perfect? No. Is it pretty darn good at getting it mostly right despite me giving it barely any information? Yeah. I was coding before we got on this call and I was using Claude locally and I told it to go write some tests. We were just talking about writing tests. And it wrote some tests and it introduced a whole new mocking package that I don't use. Like invented totally new testing patterns that I don't use on my code base. So I'm sitting here going, this thing is so dumb. This is so frustrating. And then I'm like kind of stopping and going, wait a second. Like, if I think back less than 12 months ago, I was only getting ChatGPT to try and write a method body. This thing just wrote
Yeah.
like, like 100 tests, and yeah, it picked the wrong package, and yeah, it did some different, testing structure. And in one more prompt, I said, don't do these things, go look at these examples, and it rewrote all of it. And it's the right patterns, the right framework. Like it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, with the current speed, in like a few months, it's gonna be even better. So, but this also like shows how it's still important to learn the fundamentals of software engineering,
Absolutely.
learn how things work, because right now AI is a co-pilot. You are still the pilot. You are still in control. Uh, AI creates a nice draft with like 90% done, and like
Right.
the last 10% you need to polish. That's the state right now. And that requires you to understand at least the basics, understand what works and what doesn't work, understand the structure of your application, because AI gets better, but you still need to work within the same structure of the rest of the application. Otherwise, you can just throw away the architecture and go free for all, and that doesn't. That just creates like a beautiful legacy application.
Instantly though, right? So I think that's a really good reminder for folks. I mean, a couple things. One is this reminder that like please, there's a difference between learning things because you're getting stuck versus just generating code. I cannot stress this enough because I know the temptation is there. I was just describing, being able to blast out tons of tests and stuff. But the only reason that I like know when I'm looking at these tests that like maybe a lot of them are garbage. I know that because I've written thousands and thousands and thousands of tests. Like
Hmm.
I had to go practice that. So there is a difference between generating code and actually building up those skills. I can't remember the other thing I wanted to say. That'll come back someday, but yeah,
Probably.
there, yeah, hopefully. But the reality is like the tools are evolving, right? It's we cannot just jump to, especially for junior folks, right? We
Mhm.
cannot just jump to get it to output code and oh, that was a legacy code based thing that I knew it was going to
Ah, yeah.
come back. So if you're just outputting code and you're not having this opportunity to like learn these concepts and these fundamentals, which take time, by the way, they take time and practice, you will get code that gets output. Great. Let's say it mostly works. Let's say it works 75% of the way. You kind of vibe code the rest of it to get it mostly working. The reality is code is never perfect. There's no such thing. So now you go to build the next set of things. And instead of it being like something that you have like an architectural path forward or like some common frameworks and systems that you're using, what
Mhm.
happens is the next iteration of this lowers the bar even more. You have all these diverging patterns. You do it again, it diverges even more. And you're basically, all of us have, or not all of us, but many of us who have been in the industry for a while have worked in these legacy code bases where we're like, what the heck is this? You're basically doing
Mhm.
that within like one working day of just blasting out code and creating the most legacy looking ball of spaghetti anyone's ever seen. But we can avoid
Absolutely.
it.
And that one thing I also hear with the rise of AI is people, of course, getting scared of the industry, especially
Right.
juniors or those currently chasing a computer science degree or coding bootcamp or just self-taught, wanting to get into the industry. AI is making it harder. And
Yeah.
we've seen it over the past few years. There was the rise with COVID, with tech hires, and now there's like a lot of layoffs, which is unfortunate, but I think it will turn around because we know tech is needed. Uh, and I think our jobs are safe for the next few years at
There's
least.
there's more people coming, like more tech leaders coming out and saying this, right? Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in the news, in the media, I keep repeating this to people, but like headlines on any news outlet or any social media, anything, headlines are designed to invoke or evoke emotion.
Yeah.
They're designed like people click things when they're afraid. It's turn on the news, any channel. It's going to be things that are scary. Um,
Absolutely.
it's not like you don't watch news and it's just happy things. Like that's unfortunately they're tapping into our psychology. This is the same thing with headlines. It's designed to get you to click and to watch. So you'll see this overwhelming majority of things that are scary, especially with AI. And I'm very glad that there's at least a couple more like tech leaders coming out and saying like no, like I think Sundar Pichai from Google was one of the most recent that I'm aware of that was like, we're still hiring engineers, like we
Mhm.
absolutely need engineers because it's not AI replacing them, it's like this is AI augmenting them and it's going to enable us to do more things. We need more engineers to go do those more things.
It's always been a capacity thing, like uh, companies wanting to deliver more than engineers have capacity. And now engineers can be more productive. So that means they can finally deliver more.
Yeah. It's I know this is like unfortunate because when people see what's happening with jobs, with layoffs, it's very easy to go draw the conclusion, especially when there are some companies that actually were laying people off because they're like, oh, we'll just use AI.
Hmm.
It I don't think I've seen one be successful yet, by the way. I
Uh,
haven't. It's either they go under or they rehire the engineers back. But so I realize that it's easy to jump to that conclusion, with a general, outlook on this stuff. But the the reality is there is no, like, it's not a fixed amount of work. It's not like, there's 100 features and 100 bugs that need to be done. So if we just introduce AI, we don't need the engineers. It's like
Uh,
there is there is always far too much work to do.
Absolutely. And what I've
Yeah.
just heard, like, people do get nervous about AI, especially those ones who join the industry. And that makes sense. It makes sense to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But being uncomfortable is important in this industry. If you're not uncomfortable, then that means you get complacent and tech changes fast, and that means you get falling behind. I've seen it happen with people that are at the company for 5, 6, 7, 10 plus years, work with the same technology over and over again, and don't learn new things. And they get comfortable, they enjoy it, they get a nice pay, and then, well, the company changes. They are working on a product with new technology, and they are behind because they haven't been learning for at least 5 years. And especially now, the tech industry changes so quickly that if you don't learn, you're falling behind. And that's one thing. Uncomfortable is good. That's the imposter syndrome talking. And most people say it's a junior thing. At least that's what people think.
Right.
But I think we can both say it's something all levels of experience have. I have it myself. Some days more than others. Um, I had it when I started writing on LinkedIn. Like, is my experience good enough? Am I experienced enough to tell those things to people?
Right.
Well, I'll let you in on a secret. I might have felt a little imposter syndrome before this interview because it's
Sure.
something
Yeah.
new. It's
Right.
uncomfortable, but well, so far it's very enjoyable. So that's
Not so
good.
bad, right?
No, it's not. Being uncomfortable is good.
Right.
It's not fun, but it's worse when you are feeling comfortable, especially for like a longer period of time. You need to keep learning. You need to keep challenging yourself, and you need to keep asking questions. And right now, of course, we ask those questions more to AI and LLMs like ChatGPT, but just ask questions. Ask your team, ask that senior person in your team that has been there for 10 years, whatever. Ask your question because, well, you don't want to get stuck, like we mentioned before, uh, and you want to keep learning. And that's one of the ways you keep learning.
Yeah. It's I think that advice is applicable. You could argue applicable for any industry, but I think given the pace that we move at in software development, it's I feel like if you're the kind of person who's like, I just want to sit back and relax and kind of coast through, you'll probably find that it's just not going to work very well.
No,
It might work for a little bit, but like, it changes too fast for it to be a realistic approach. So, but I agree with everything you said. I do think that that often leads to what is imposter syndrome, right? Like things
yeah,
move very fast. We do have to put ourselves into situations where we're learning new things. This doesn't just have to, thank you for sharing those examples too, because it doesn't just have to be, oh, well, I'm going to go learn, like, I know C sharp, but now I have to go learn Python. And like, now I have imposter syndrome. Like, no, it could be, this is the first project I have to lead at work. This
mhm,
is, I joined a new team and I'm a manager, and now am I actually good enough to be a manager? Like, was it just a coincidence that I was able to do it before? You're applying to a new job and you're like, I know I've been a developer for 15 years, but like, am I actually good enough for this role? Like, it comes up all of the time. It will keep coming up in our careers. The more people that I talk to about it, the more that I realize, like, and I hear this advice from others as well, it's like, try not to look at imposter syndrome as something where you want to avoid it, where you're like, this is terrible. Like, how do I cure the imposter syndrome? It's more like, acknowledge it's there. When
mhm.
you feel it, when it's around you, it means you're uncomfortable. It means that you're learning. It means that you're going to grow. you will get through it, and then you will get on to the next round of imposter syndrome for the next thing that's helping you grow as
Absolutely.
an individual.
You will never cure it. Even if it's temporary, it will come back. It will come back
Right.
harder, likely. And you have to learn to live with it. And that's not easy. It's not a comfortable truth. But like I said, software engineering is uncomfortable. And you need to be okay with that. And you need to know that it's going to be uncomfortable.
It's one of the good signs that you are growing and getting better, right? So I think it's a good reminder for everyone. And especially if you are a junior, when you start experiencing that, maybe you have already, maybe you haven't yet, but when you start to, it's like just a reminder, it's okay, it's good, we all go through it.
Yeah, when I started my computer science course in uni, one of the things the teacher said at the beginning was, when you join tech, you will always have to keep learning. And that's very true. If you don't, you're falling behind, and you just need to want to. I mean, if you don't like learning, don't go into tech. You need to enjoy it. You need to enjoy learning and being curious. And like I always say, curiosity is king. If you're not curious and you don't want to learn, just don't go into tech. It's only gonna like move you towards a burnout, and that's only gonna put you back further.
Yeah, it's just going to be friction and you're going to feel like you're fighting it the whole time, right? So I think that's really great advice. And Timo, I wanted to say thank you so much for this conversation. For I know that you're very active online. If folks want to find you, where do they find you? Where can they read what you're posting? Where can they reach out to you? What's that look like?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn mostly, but also on X or Twitter, however you want to call it, and Blue Sky. I think link's gonna be in the description, maybe on screen as
Yep,
well. If it's on screen, it's either here, I don't know,
it's some.
somewhere. It's also in the description. You can find me. You can start a chat with me if you want to. I'm active on those platforms, but I'm also working on like starting something new.
Okay,
That's a surprise for now.
okay. I'll have to find out more about this. And
Of course,
you have a newsletter, right?
I don't have yet, but that's like one of the things that I want to start.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yeah, that means for folks that are listening and watching that if you want to see more from Timo, then social media, yes, and then stay tuned on his socials because you'll see what else he's cooking up. So that's awesome. Timo, thank you so much for making the time to chat with me. Um, I think there's a lot of helpful words of wisdom. I am glad we got to talk on AI, how that's shaping how people are getting into that learning phase. I think that's really important. I
Absolutely.
think that it's like you said earlier, it's not going away. There's only going to be more of it, and that good reminder that if you're getting into this space, then you need to be comfortable, like always trying to learn because you're going to have to keep doing it. Of
Yeah, of course. And like once again, thank you for inviting me over here. It's been a lot
course.
of fun to talk about my experience and of course my vision as well. And I just see that we've been talking for like an hour now, which is a long time, and it's flown by very quickly. So like I
There we
said,
go. Right.
it's
So
it's very comfortable to be here talking with you. So thank you again.
of course. And there we go on the imposter syndrome part, right? If you had a little bit of imposter syndrome before,
Yeah,
you totally got through this and survived, right?
absolutely. Now up to the next level of imposter syndrome.
Awesome. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.